Welcome back to my channel, GAF1. I am Greg Allen. It has been an absolutely bonker weeks here in the United States with our national election going on. Very, very crazy. I apologize for not getting videos up a little more frequently than I usually do. Moving forward, I'll still try to get up at least 2 to 3 videos per week. This has just been an absolutely crazy week, and I don't know that too many people are paying attention to anything else other than what was going on. Finally over, glad that's behind us, and we have the Turkish Grand Prix coming up. So today I kind of want to talk about Alfa Romeo, how Kimi Räikkönen, his veteran leadership, is leading this team towards a pretty good direction in the way they're trending, but how Antonio Giovinazzi is doing his part as well. We've seen a pretty good trend line towards a positive direction for this team that has them set up and headed in the right direction going into 2021, and that's why I want to take a look at their 2020 season and how they're trending for next season, because I think for a team like Alfa Romeo, who has their driver lineup all set for 2021, which is not something that a lot of other F1 teams can say yet. A lot of uncertainty, I'd say like a Haas, for instance. How these two drivers are going to look in 2021 based on what they've done in 2020. So let's start with the legend himself, Kimi Räikkönen. And Kimi Räikkönen and Antonio Giovinazzi started this year suffering from the Ferrari power unit issues that every Ferrari power team had to deal with this season. But consistency is key here, I think, for Alfa Romeo and what we've seen all season long. A rough start to the season. He has the wheel issue after a collision right off the bat in Austria and has that retirement. Has a really solid second race, actually. A really good 11th place finish for Kimi Räikkönen there. But then we're going to fall basically into this 15, 17, 15, 14 kind of range for the next 3 or 4 races where he's not really getting into out of the back 5 of the F1 pack. And a lot of this also has to do with qualification, which has been a problem for Alfa Romeo all season long. And that's not something they've totally fixed in the last 5 races. But overall, I think that their finishes have definitely improved. And I think Ferrari is slowly starting to figure out, all the Ferrari power teams are starting to figure out how to get more out of these cars than they did in the first half of the season. We've seen it with Charles Leclerc, has been doing pretty well with Ferrari. But the Haas cars have looked a little bit better. Alfa Romeo has definitely looked a little bit better. So they're starting to figure it out. And that's why I want to talk about this team trending towards 2021. Right before we hit this red line here, which is where I really think we're starting to see a difference between the beginning of the season and the end of the season, Kimi already starts to kind of turn it on a little bit here. Gets the 12th, gets the 13th, and we're starting to see him in the conversation of maybe knocking on the door. Meanwhile, Antonio Giovinazzi in this part of the season, he has a really good start to the season. He finishes in the points with a 9th, maybe a little bit of an anomaly with how many drivers retired from the Austrian Grand Prix. There had been a massive break. We went to Australia, didn't get off the ground there, COVID hit, and we had that first race and everyone retired from it. It seemed like half the field was running. Not taking anything away from Giovinazzi, he's had a very impressive start to every single Grand Prix this season, making overtakes on the first lap every single race. But I definitely think that he's kind of struggled with his finishes here. 14, 17, 14, 17, 16, retirement 16. Not a really thrilling start to the season after that first finish in the points for Antonio Giovinazzi. You can definitely tell it's been a minute since I made a video. Sorry for the edit there. I didn't check my battery before I hit play. So yes, talking about the first half of that season for Antonio Giovinazzi, he really struggles with his finishes here. He's never really breaking out of that 15th or better spot other than the first Grand Prix. Kimi flirts with it a little bit, but overall Alfa Romeo has a lot of troubles in qualification, a lot of 20th place qualifiers for them, and it kind of translates to them not really being able to make up too much ground. Ferrari struggling with the power units there, and everything kind of looking like it's going to be a terrible season for Alfa Romeo, and it kind of has overall in general. But we hit this cut line here where starting the Tuscan Grand Prix on down, things start to turn around a little bit. So we'll start with Kimi Räikkönen again. Good qualifying effort. Gets out of Q1 for the first time in quite some time for him. Well, actually, he did the week before, but he starts 13th is a really good qualifying effort, is my point there. Solid 9th place finish. He finishes in the points for the first time all season. And he follows that up with a terrible qualifying at 20th, but he races his way up to 14th, which is a positive day considering a very bad qualification effort there. But then 19th, 16th, 18th, again, qualifying doesn't totally improve for Alfa Romeo here, but he rattles off a 12th, an 11th, and a 9th. So overall in these 5 races, that 14th is really the only bad day for him. He finishes in the points twice in those 5 races and is knocking on the door of points in the other ones. And Antonio Giovinazzi gets caught up in the mayhem that was the Tuscan Grand Prix and has a retirement, But other than that, he has some similar stats. 2 times in the points with 2 10th place finishes, and he's knocking on the door with an 11th on the other one, and the one outlier for himself there at 15th. So comparing the last 5 races to the beginning, both these drivers are trending in the right way towards 2021. If you're Alfa Romeo, you have to think that Ferrari is going to do a little bit better with their power unit next year. And what they're able to get out of it now, these are really positive results here. 4 times their drivers finished in the points, 2 races each. And things are definitely in a much better and more stable place than where they were in the beginning of the season. So really good news. I definitely understand why Alfa Romeo decided to stick with their 2020 driver lineup. It's not their fault that they had some struggles in the beginning of the season. Nobody could have predicted how bad Ferrari and Ferrari power units were going to be. Alfa Romeo, I don't think was ever going to be a top 4 or 5 team, regardless. But I think that these last 5 races, they've been pretty impressive. I mean, Kimi Räikkönen in the last race, he gets a 9th place finish, but that first lap, he was battling Max Verstappen in lap 2 with what he was able to do. That was a legendary first lap. Definitely overperformed, but I think in general, I look for trends when I look at Formula One stats when I do these videos, and this team kind of jumped out as me as one that we don't really hear talked about a lot. No one's really commenting on what they're doing right now, and I think they're trending in a really positive direction for 2021, and I expect that they're going to be one of the teams that sees the greatest improvement in 2021. And having their driver lineup now, having had a full year together, locked down for next season, I think that kind of stability is often overlooked in Formula One. I understand there's a lot of crazy shakeups happening in driver lineups all over F1. I think Alfa Romeo is going to maybe reap the benefits in 2021 by having a very experienced Kimi Räikkönen and a still youngish driver in Antonio Giovinazzi who keeps improving, in my opinion. I know he's had some criticisms. I know a lot of people, question his seat in there. But when you look at the stats and the way they're playing out between these two drivers, no one's going to question Kimi Räikkönen because he's an amazing driver. And Giovinazzi's done a pretty good job of kind of mimicking that season, having a bad beginning and really turning around over the last 5 Grand Prix. 2 retirements were collisions and crashes that he got involved with. I don't really necessarily believe any of them were his fault, per se. But overall, 2 times in the points, things are getting a little bit better. Qualification is, again, what's really, really killing them. It reminds me a lot of like Sebastian Vettel and Ferrari or Haas. When you're qualifying, never getting a Q1 most of the time, you're going to have a hard time making up a lot of ground. And I think that's what's made these last 5 races for me so impressive for Alfa Romeo. They have made up a lot of ground. They have had, Kimi Räikkönen had a 20th and a 19th there, and he has made up a lot of ground. 6 places and 8 places, that's a lot on a Formula One racetrack to make up. And Kimi's done a great job of that. 2 9th place finishes after a 13th and an 18th spot. Again, that first lap was just so brilliant 2 weeks ago. To Giovinazzi, same thing. 6 places there, 10 places in last GP. So I think this team and Alfa Romeo in general are headed in a really good direction for 2021. No one's really talking about them, and I understand why. They're not really on the radar of doing anything massively impressive, but quietly they're starting to get the results they need to trend this team in the right direction for next season. And for a team like Alfa Romeo, for Haas, for instance, and some of these teams that are in that 8th, 9th, and 10th place in the constructors, this is what you need to be doing heading into 2021. And it's not going to get noticed sometimes, but I did want to bring it to everyone's attention because I think that they're headed in a good direction. Are they going to win races next year? No, probably not. But could Kimi Räikkönen and Giovinazzi be finishing in the points a lot more? I actually think that is very possible if Ferrari gets that a little extra out of their power unit, which they said they're going to be working on. So watch out for this team to maybe be more of a 9th, 10th place finisher more frequently in GPs next year. And look for continued improvement from Giovinazzi. And I don't think Kimi Räikkönen is slowing down at all. He absolutely deserves his place in Formula One, and he's not too old for it. Did a video on that a while back. But Kimi Räikkönen has been amazing this year when we've had a chance to see him display his talent. And it's been a lot of fun. And how crazy is it that we've seen him and Vettel battling on the track constantly when he's at Alfa Romeo and Vettel was in a Ferrari. Been a very wild 2020. But we'll see what happens. I think this team is trending in the right direction for 2021. If you like my video, please consider giving me a like and subscribe. And as always, thank you so much for watching this channel, and I will do a better job at getting more videos out this week. See you in the next one.